CJ Gardner-Johnson traded. Bunch of free agents gone. Dallas Goedert maybe on the way out. What's next? Selling scrap metal for cash? Why are the Eagles being so cheap? Let's find out next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Bo Wulf and Zach Berman. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast Free Agency Frenzy, presented by our friends at TrueMark Financial. Visit TrueMark.com for rates and to learn more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA Equal Opportunity Lender. Rates are subject to change. And Zach, we are 2 hours away from the official start of the league year.
I was trying to put on the Happy New Year song.
You're trying to get us canceled. You're trying to get this video taken down by playing a song from Spotify. But I got to ask you, it's very difficult, I imagine, when you're coming off the Super Bowl to roll over in bed, Jeffrey Lurie to say to Howie Roseman, hey, let's make this the best year yet.
Are they, in this framing you just did, are they in bed together?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, it's you and Emily in bed,
yes.
but Photoshop their heads onto your bodies.
Okay. Well, I hope there's no photos.
Who's waking up who in this scenario, you think?
Oh, well, if me, I mean, I'm excited. Like you're waking up on purpose.
No, but if it's Howie and Jeffrey, who's waking up who?
I don't probably Howie.
Probably Howie, right? Poking Jeffrey. Hey, wake up. It's 4 p.m.
Happy New Year.
Let's make this the best year yet.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Let's make this the best year yet for our show as well.
Now, you were trying to go Old Lang Syne there?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
That's what I think of with the New Year. Is that what you think of? Is that your New Year's Eve song?
No, I think of hey, let's make this the best year yet.
Well, no, that's a birthday more than... I don't typically say that on New Year's Eve.
What are you talking about? You told us the whole thing about you wake up Emily at midnight to say that.
Well, yeah, say Happy New Year. That's true. I do that. Correct.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's a good reference. I do that. Yeah. No, but the text, let's make this the best year yet.
I know that. But the New Year's thing, you're waking everybody in the house up.
Yeah, yes. I get excited at midnight.
We did a whole thing about how much you love New Year's. It's like your favorite thing.
It's renewal. That's what I like about it. It's a sense of, it's an opportunity. I like, as I've said to you before, optimistic holidays. And New Year's Eve, I find to be an optimistic holiday.
Well,
July 4th is an optimistic holiday.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay. People tend to be happy on July 4th. It's not like
people tend to be happy on most holidays.
That's actually not always the case. There's some holidays where it's more solemn.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so that's
like Veterans Day. People aren't partying in the street, but you're like, I don't think that. I don't think that
New Year's Eve
optimism is necessarily more the case for July 4th than Halloween or Christmas.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's certain like religious holidays where it's about like punishment.
Sure.
Right? And so I find New Year's Eve to be an optimistic holiday. The start of the new league year there's a sense of renewal on this day for teams.
Okay.
Every team is 0-0.
So what would be the NFL equivalent of Yom Kippur?
The day when you're atoning. So I guess cut down day.
Honestly, cut down day is good.
Yes.
But I think you could frame this Eagles off season so far as atonement, right?
You think so? Okay.
They're paying the bill for a lot of the decisions they've made and will have to make. And let's get into that. You have been trying to take us from onto a non-football path, talking about holidays. I want to talk ball here.
This is my language. I love this.
Okay. Spin this as optimism for Eagles fans then. If the new year is an optimistic holiday, what is optimistic about the way that the Eagles have operated over the past 48 hours?
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you spin, and it's not a matter of optimism. It's more patience, right? It's March 12th. The Eagles don't play a game until September. I am not one of these people who says you need to think in Howie we trust. Howie's not infallible. Howie's had good off seasons. Howie's had bad off seasons. But I also don't think Howie's flying by the seat of his pants. I think there's there's a plan with now. We don't know if it's a good plan. Like that will bear itself out. But I don't think that they're just. I don't think this is a surprise to them. What's happened during this week? I don't think they're like, oh goodness, this is what do we do now? If I'm being honest with you, the 2015 offseason was very much, oh shoot, what do we do now? Because they went into that with this was when Howie was actually out that year and Chip Kelly was running it. And they were literally just turning around being like, all right, what's next? What's next? What do we do with this money? I don't think that anything that's happened during the past 48 hours has surprised the Eagles per se. So I guess what I would tell fans is that like some of these things take time. Howie Roseman did telegraph what was going to happen when he talked about patience, when he talked about losing players, when he talked about younger players stepping in, when he talked about, by the way, I am curious now when he said might go against conventional wisdom, they probably had planned on trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson at that point.
I feel like that was one of the ones that he had in mind. Yeah,
exactly. So some of this, I think he telegraphed, and then I think there'll be late movers on some of these transactions as well, and I imagine that they'll, as we've discussed, draft-proof their roster in certain areas. I imagine they'll add a corner, they'll add a safety, they'll add a defensive lineman, they'll add an edge rusher. It's just not what we in Philadelphia are accustomed to with them being so active early in free agency. This is probably more comparable. I won't even say to 2022 because 2022 they had some lines in the fire that didn't work out, and they end up getting A.J. Brown that offseason. Even that year, they signed Hassan Reddick, right? This, to me, is probably more comparable to 2021, where they were sitting on their hands early, and it was a maintenance year in a certain respect.
After they traded Wentz, you're talking about
taking
that
exactly.
Here's my question. The framing from the Eagles right now is, we have been one of, if not the biggest cash spender in the league. It's been a huge part of our success, and we have given the Eagles, and Jeffrey Lurie specifically, a ton of credit for that. Part of the reason that they are moving on from C.J. Gardner-Johnson and letting these guys walk, in addition to getting the comp picks, which makes sense, is that they're preserving cash, in theory, for next year so that they can extend Jalen Carter and other people around them. And this roster is going to, at some point, be like your A-level stars getting paid at the top of the market, and a bunch of rookie contract guys and guys on low-level veteran deals. They don't want to be paying the B-plus guys, right? But do you think that that's what Howie Roseman wants to do, or do you think some of these moves are more Jeffrey Lurie directed?
Yeah. Well, look, they have an operating budget, right? Like that's clear. This isn't they don't just spend all the time, and it is true. As ESPN pointed out, Mike Reese had an article about this at the owners' meeting a year ago, that from the 10-year period going into last year, they were the highest cash spenders in the league. And when we talked about their cap strategy, a big part of it is paying big bonuses, and then you're able to kind of spread the cap hits over a period of years because you're putting it in bonus money as opposed to salary money. So that is part of their strategy. But yeah, I think you are right that there probably is a directive here that there's a lot of money that's going to be going out in the next 2-3 years. There's a lot of money that's gone out in the past 2-3 years, that there needs to be a sense of like financial responsibility. They do have an operating budget this is not.
So the answer is Jeffrey Lurie in your mind.
Yeah. I mean, if that is coming from Jeffrey, if Howie's kind of has, if Howie's,
in other words,
I'm trying to,
Jeffrey gives Howie the operating budget, as you say, and it's Howie's job to figure out how to move the cash around.
Exactly.
You don't think that it's Howie from a football standpoint being like, I want to get ahead of this and move off of CJ Gardner-Johnson now in order to prepare us to do something else next offseason? You think that this is much more top down?
To an extent. I think the nuance to that is, I think if it was just CJ Gardner-Johnson, you pay him $8.25 million this year, that's one thing, right? But I think if it or
from a roster standpoint, it's not making much of a difference to the cap, and so you would think you would just keep the good players. I think the Goedert thing is the one that's really looming here, because to me, that's going to be much different. If there's a possibility that they are, for cash purposes, just going to move off of Dallas Goedert, whether that's a release or taking, like a 4th or 5th round pick just to move off of him, that would be much more concerning to me. Like, from a football standpoint, I can understand the CJ Gardner-Johnson thing a little bit more, whereas on offense, you don't have a third option baked in. You don't have a tight end baked in. Dallas Goedert is a very good player, and even if he says he doesn't want to play on that contract, you could sort of call his bluff there.
So that's where my hesitation was, because if we're always operating from an information deficit, right?
Sure.
We try to fill in those gaps, but if they have an understanding or information that like CJ Gardner-Johnson is not thrilled about his contract, or that CJ Gardner-Johnson wants an extension, then that's a human element there that they need to account for. It's not just the cash you're paying that year, but it's the cash that would have to come with a new contract, right? So that's something to take into account. But yeah, I do think it's fair to say that the Eagles are operating within the confines of a budget that goes beyond the salary cap. That is like a cash budget. I don't think that's a stretch.
As for the point you made about like in Howie we trust being a little bit overstated, but also that he, like, this is part of the plan. I don't think they're flying by the seat of their pants. I think that's true. I do find, like, we've talked about over the course of time, because we have a greater sample size of Howie Roseman's decisions than most general managers, the Eagles have been way better than the rest of the league when it comes to their free agency decisions, whereas their draft decisions have been about average, which is what you would expect. I think the framing that you have heard from some national reporters of, like, well, listen, they gotta turn this roster over to young players, and who's been better in the draft recently than the Eagles, I think that is overstated. Like, that, you cannot count on that continuing. And also, some of the things that they've done in the draft were, like, you get Jalen Carter at 9 overall.
Exactly.
They're not going to have a 9 overall pick, right?
100%.
They're picking it towards the end of the draft. It's going to be harder bets to make, and you're not going to get those right all the time. I think there is a reason to believe in Howie Roseman from a figuring out, where the value is going to be in the market. I think it's okay to preach patience. We've got to do a show every day, and they're probably going to add a couple guys in 2 weeks who are going to be like, oh, okay, well, now there is somebody on the roster at safety. Now there is somebody on the roster at corner, and we'll see how that looks. Right now, it doesn't look like there are guys there. But I don't think you can say, okay, we're going to just count on our second-round pick being a, star safety, right? Like, that's not going to continue.
No, you're absolutely right. And I wrote this on allphly.com. You can subscribe right now, become a diehard. We have a great deal, $36 a year, $3 a month. You get Fran Duffy's draft coverage, which is top in the class. You get all our Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, Phillies coverage as well.
You're good at those teases, those plugs.
Well, when you believe in something.
Amen, man.
Yeah, right? It's easy to do when it's organic, and that's organic. Man, selfishly, I want people to read my stuff, right? So, the only way you're reading my stuff on allphly.com is if you're a diehard.
Yeah.
So I want that pulled. I write so people read. I don't write for my own edification.
Live hard so you can die hard.
But one thing I said, it would be, I don't think I used the term hubris, but it would be hubris. It would take a lot of hubris on the Eagles' part to look at yesterday's moves and say, like, the best possible outcome is going to happen for Kenyon Green and for Sidney Brown, right? Like, for Kenyon Green to turn into Mekhi Becton, and for Sidney Brown to turn into, like, a starting safety, like, that's like the best case scenario for both of those. And so they can't look at yesterday's trade and say, we got a starting right guard and we're opening the spot for our safety. They do need to add competition at safety. They'll need at guard to see how Tyler Steen looks, maybe how Trevor Keegan looks. Like, there's a chance neither player is a starter for them.
Sure.
There's a chance that
I also think they know that.
Exactly.
Right.
That's my point. So it would be ambitious for them to say Sidney Brown's just going to step into that role. But I do think they want some of these young guys to have opportunities. And I think this goes back to a point you made at the combine, and you caught onto it right away when Howie said that they have to let their young guys play. And there were decisions that they've made in past years where they've kind of blocked some of these guys from developing. Yeah. And I think what they'll try to do is have a veteran who's in there to be the fail-safe option, but they'll try to give some of these draft picks a chance to win jobs. But you are right, and this can't be overstated. And this goes back to when we looked at some of Howie's decisions. A big part of their success drafting during the past 4 years it goes back to those trades that they made. They were able to get Cooper DeJean last year because they had 2 second-round picks, so they were able to trade up, right? They were able to take Jalen Carter because they had a pick in the top 10 from a trade they made previously. They were able to get A.J. Brown because of these trades that they made, right? So that this all kind of factors into they're not going to, if you look at it going forward, they don't have 2 second-round picks. They don't have a first-round pick in the top 10. Your odds of hitting are much harder later in the draft. Their best draft in recent years was Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams, and they were drafting high in those rounds each time. Now, they also...
with the Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith is pretty good, but that's 2 first-round picks.
Exactly, yeah. They, to their credit, and if they're watching, they might say this, they nailed the 2018 draft. That was an anomaly, but that's they didn't have a first round, or they traded out of the first round that year. They didn't have a second round pick. They ended up getting Goddard. They get Sweat, Avonte Maddox, Jordan Mailata, Matt Pryor. And so that was just a really effective draft. They can't count on hitting on picks at the same rate they have these last few years.
No, I think that's right. But I also do think it makes sense for them to have that runway where they want those guys to play. Let me frame it to you this way. Of the Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, Jeremiah Trotter trio, basically the guys who are now looking like the top of the depth chart until they add somebody, who do you think they have the most internal confidence in?
Great question. Well, are we including Moro Ojimo in there?
I feel like he's at the top.
Okay,
if we did him,
exactly.
I feel like he would be at the top.
I agree with you.
But
outside of that, I think of those 3 you mentioned, Keely Ringo. And I don't know if Vic would say that, but I think Howie would say that.
Do you think, of those 3, if you asked Howie today with Truth Serum, which one are you expecting to start week 1? You think it would be Keely?
I think it would be Keely.
I think I probably agree with that.
And look, I was wrong last training camp. I thought Keely was the front runner for that job when Quinyon Mitchell was playing in the slot, and it was Keely and Isaiah Rodgers. I thought Keely was going to win that job. I was wrong, and Keely wasn't even the top backup. It was Isaiah Rodgers. But I do think internally there's confidence in Keely's development and Keely's skill set, the age profile, as we've talked about a number of times. And look, if it doesn't happen this year, this is year 3 for him, right? You want to see a guy start by year 3.
Probably so. But, I think if they were framing it and spinning it as they want, basically they viewed that first year as we're drafting this guy for next year anyway, so this is really his second year.
Sure.
He is young. I think there's reason to believe, but I also think
what's your answer to that?
Backup plan. I think it would be Keely.
Okay.
I think so too.
And then who's second for you? Sherrod Jr. or Sidney Brown?
I think the ask is so much different.
That's a good point.
I think the bar is much lower at linebacker. So I think they would be more willing to trot
there you go.
week 1 than Sidney Brown without a backup plan. But I could be wrong about that. Okay. Super chats. We see Claude Debussy says, do you think this offseason looks the same had they lost the Super Bowl? Would they be making more win-now moves instead of retooling for the future? Good question.
Great question, Claude. My quick answer is no. I don't think I think this was a plan that they had going back to last offseason. Howie said at the Combine they viewed this year as a maintenance year. They viewed last year as an opportunity to add. I think part of that is they looked at who was going to be free agents. They looked at their cap situation. They looked at some of their extensions. So I think this was always going to be the plan this offseason. Now, the one thing I will say is that the start of the year, and we said this yesterday, they didn't view Zach Bond as the guy they were going to spend,
of course not,
$16, $17 million on. So they probably internally thought they had a little more money to play around with this offseason, and then you end up signing Zach Bond. Like, if they don't sign Bond, if Bond is just an average player, you wonder where they spend that money in the first day of free agency.
Yeah, is there a deal you have seen around the league that you feel like the Eagles would have liked to make in a different timeline?
I mean, maybe it's Morig, who you really liked.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's that deal that he signed in Carolina. Maybe I don't know if I don't think they were ever signing Milton Williams for $26 million.
No.
I don't think they were bringing Sweat back, and those are kind of the two top guys on the D line. So I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
Azeez Ojulari's still lingering out there. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's a different defensive tackle.
Maybe it's Nick Bolton. Like maybe they pay for a linebacker,
that.
but I don't think so. Like I said the other day, I think their spending on a linebacker had more to do with the player than the position. But I do know internally they weren't planning on Zach Bond being a $16 million a year player for them. Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then on the other side, we'll continue this conversation and hear more questions from you, including what's up with the Eagles and Justin Reed and Justin Simmons. But we start with our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. If you have a leaky pipe at Ace Hardware Home Services, they are around the block with someone you need to fix it, including the person who'll do the fixing. They've got everything. If you've got an air conditioning issue, they've got a person for that. If you've got a faucet you said you'd fix last fall, they've got that person too, because now Ace is not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. I've used Ace Hardware Home Services. Why can't I speak today? High recommendation. They've bailed me out of a couple jams recently, and they do it very quickly and with expertise. That's right, expertise from the folks at Ace Hardware Home Services. Full-throated endorsement. Ace Hardware Home Services, they're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
We are in college basketball tournament time. It might be a difficult subject for you, right?
How dare you?
Sorry. Just trying to personalize this. In any event,
it's not over yet.
Yeah, if there is a team that you want to bet on, the place to do it is at Bet365. And I say that because it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 is 90 million users worldwide. They live stream 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting. And today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting. So I mentioned college basketball. The tournament's coming up next week. I love the NCAA tournament. With the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. We have breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spreads, totals, players, props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Going to do our tournament bracket again this year.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
My guess is you're not going to pick Duke.
You know, I have a soul.
I thought you would like Cooper Flagg.
Why? Because he loves bears?
Well, he's from Maine.
Yeah, that's why. That was my
exactly.
joke.
Yeah. He's like an icon in Maine. He's
He's not.
I mean, I've read articles from Portland, Maine, talking about how he's the most popular Maine athlete, and I'll take your word for it. I know you have a lot of connections to Maine, but I thought there'd be some Maine pride in Cooper Flagg. When was the last time the number one pick in the NBA draft was from Maine?
I don't know.
I don't believe it's ever happened. I mean, not since Nick Kaner-Medley has there probably been a basketball player from Maine.
He went to Rachel's high school.
There you go. Is it Deering? Is that right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Weird that you know that.
Instead of saying that's really cool that you know that. That's weird that I know
No, that's
that.
weird that you know that.
It's weird that I know Nick Cannon Medley's high school.
Yes. Do you not think that that's weird?
No, I do not. I do not.
Yeah. I mean, I think weird is honestly flattering. I think disturbing would be another word. I think.
It's weird that you read an article about someone and you remember the contents of the article. Yeah.
Can you name any other professional athletes who went to Deering?
Yeah, I can. Ryan Flaherty.
Yes.
He played baseball for the Orioles. I covered actually when he was with the Orioles. I remember exactly where I was and speaking to. He got called up from the Norfolk Tides, and I was covering the game for Mark.
Maybe we have had this conversation.
I was covering the game for Mark Carrig, and Dave Tremblay was their manager. And I asked Dave Tremblay, like, what did you hear about Ryan Flaherty down in Norfolk that like prompted the promotion?
Yeah,
that was a totally fair question, but you know,
a reasonable question.
I was like the fill-in guy, and like Flaherty was one of these guys you would call like a quad A player.
Yeah,
so
he was a former first-round pick.
Yeah, no, but like he'd been up and down.
Okay.
So like Tremblay's point was like he didn't need to do anything down there. We already know the guy, right? But you would think that like. I brought up where he went to high school because he was like flabbergasted by the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I called Carrig and I'm like, Mark, did I do something wrong here?
Now you might have also been familiar because when you were on your high school baseball team that was nationally ranked, I think the Deering team was also nationally ranked.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Okay. I wish we played against them.
Both would have lost to Rat Country Day. New York State champs, baby!
I respectfully would have taken our chances.
Yeah, but you'd be wrong.
I mean, this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with like USA Today ranked us number 10 in the country. We were.
Yeah, well, they didn't see enough of our games.
Okay, that's probably what it was. Okay, all right.
Any given Tuesday.
You guys played on Tuesdays? Yeah.
And we played all days of the week.
Yeah, we played. Yeah, that's true. So did we.
Yeah. Okay. Let's check out the other super chats we have waiting. Dinkelberg is back in the chat. He says, what's with the Eagles' interest in signing Justin Reed?
Ooh.
Thought they moved on from CJ to make room for other contracts. What is the deal there?
Yeah, I don't have, I have so much respect for James Palmer, who a friend of the show. James Palmer is the one who brought that up. I don't know the nature of the Eagles' offer, right? It was obviously less than the Saints' offer, but the Eagles make calls on everybody, or they typically do. So it might be one of those things where they obviously like the player. Justin Reed's a really good player, and they were seeing what the market is. Right?
Sure, it makes sense to check
could
in.
Be that. Yeah, exactly. And so these were the teams that talked to them. I don't know how significant their offer is, so I can't speak to that report. But certainly, when you see that, it gives you a little bit of skepticism if the Eagles are trying to sell you on like. They want Sidney Brown to have a legitimate chance of competing for this job. If Justin Reed's on your team, Sidney Brown's not competing for the starting safety job.
I mean, what an outcome that would have been for your son to have two safeties, Reed and Reed.
He would be so. That's a good point. He would love Justin Reed because Justin Reed spells it R-E-I-D.
Yeah, and on the back of the jersey.
Exactly. That's actually a good point. He would have loved that.
Oh, what a missed opportunity. Yeah. Maybe that's why Howie was checking in.
You know what's interesting? His flag football team this spring is the Saints. Oh. And their coach told them, they had practice last Friday, and their coach told them, go home, play Madden, and find out your favorite Saints player. Oh. And so he didn't need to play Madden. He was telling me Chris Olave was his favorite player. Okay. But he did play Madden. He told Emily, he came home.
Assignment. Yeah.
He said, Emily, I have homework from the coach. And Emily's like, you're not playing video games right now. We're sitting down for dinner. But he's like, no, I have to play with the Saints. But
the coach said so. Yeah.
Justin Reed would be his favorrait player.
Is he going around the house going like a who day?
No, he doesn't know that yet, but we probably should.
You got to get him to do that.
But he doesn't. He wears the arm sleeve.
Okay.
And he doesn't have a gold arm sleeve.
Okay.
And I was like, you'll make the arm sleeve look good no matter what color it is. Like, don't worry about the gold arm sleeve.
Man makes the clothes.
Exactly.
All right. Next super chat we have from Danilo. Is it fair to say that if Howie, and this is a very generous super chat, is it fair to say that if Howie kept drafting well and the cap continuing to go up, there are no reasons to worry? This is a faith in Howie question. I just think like the faith in Howie is temperamental, right? He can do no wrong until he does wrong. In a macro sense, he's won 2 Super Bowls. You can't really complain, but there's nothing to say that he's going to continue to nail every draft. I do think the cap continuing to go up is less important in the things we're hearing about the decisions they're making because they seem to be cash focused and not cap focused.
I mean, I think that sentence would apply for any GM. If you keep drafting well, there's no reason to worry because I do think drafting players, signing players, you see the nature of this free agency class is that with the cap going up, there are fewer and fewer top players hitting the open market because teams are keeping their players. Teams have the money to keep their own players with the increase in cap. So, yeah, if Howie keeps drafting Jalen Carter and Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and, you go on down the list, Cam Jurgens in the second round, then they'll be just fine.
Dylan McMahon.
I am curious, what currency was that? Have we lost it?
No, I don't want to guess.
Okay.
But, I mean, he sound that is a
no, but what's
Brazilian
the R
or Portuguese name?
Yeah. So what's the RS in currency? I apologize for my ignorance here. Is that what it is? Yeah. It looks like the Brazilian real actually. Yes.
There we go.
Is it real or real? REAL.
It's probably not real.
Yeah, real is my guess. Brazilian real. And I should. That's why.
Tell us where in Brazil you are, if that's where you are, Danilo. Winston says, Bo, would you do a mailbag episode if every question had to be addressed to someone in the Eagles world, players, front office, etc., but the answer had to do with the appropriate impression? Yes, but there are a few impressions I think that even I would shy away from.
Okay.
But I'm happy to do a mailbag episode. When we don't really have other topics to discuss, but I'm not all the way anti-mailbag. I'm just you got one show to run and you're doing a mailbag, what are we really doing?
Yeah, I will push back on that. I think that mailbags are a way, as people in our Discord told us and in the comments section told us, is that it was a way to address a variety of topics. It was an organic conversation. Oftentimes, actually, mailbags, what it does is it helps spur ideas that maybe you didn't have. I'm all for mailbags. They don't have to be every day, but during the off season, if you did a mailbag Monday or a midweek mailbag, you got the alliteration going. I think that's a great show.
As the people in the chat say, I am in on a quail bag.
Okay.
Last super chat we have here. He's from Salvador. Rohit checking in says, trade away Bryce Huff and a 5th for a salary dump. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't get. Now, I would need to look at it, but if you're attaching the pick, wouldn't you just cut him? Like, I don't know if you're saving anything by trading him. Now, post June 1st, I think there are savings there, but I think the cutting and the trading at that point is the same. So I would just cut him and eat the money. Am I right about that? Or is there a difference?
I think there is a difference. I think if you're trading him, you're either way, you're taking on no.
Yeah.
If you cut him, it's a way bigger cap hit.
Okay.
If you trade him, it's still a cap hit.
Right now, too?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, according to Over the Cap, it's a cap hit of just over $5 million.
Okay, yeah. So then I do think they could attach a pick to get him off the books.
It's not worth just not keeping him around, I don't think.
Unless...
Because you're taking on the hit and you're having to attach a pick.
Yeah.
You're not going to you can't just cut him. So just keep him around.
Yeah.
Like
the Texans famously did the team
because either way, if you trade him, you're still paying the cash unless you're the team you're agreeing to trade him to. You say we're going to pay half the money. Mm-hmm. Like maybe that's possible, but then you're going to have to attach a higher pick. And like, is that really worth it? Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I've heard that theory floated out there. Or I should say I've seen that theory floated out there on social media. I suppose you never say never. The Texans once did that to get Brock Osweiler off their books. You know, they attached a second-round pick, I believe, for the Browns that kind of absorbed that contract. I don't know if that's what they would do, but they certainly have fifth-round picks at their disposal if they were going to do that.
Rams have whacked Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
Any interest from the Eagles there, you think?
No, I don't. I think that Jahan Dotson is going to be the number 3 receiver next year, and I wouldn't rule out them drafting a wide receiver like you said. They also have, obviously, Anaya Smith and Johnny Wilson, who they'll continue to develop, but I don't think they're bringing in Cooper Kupp as the number 3 wide receiver.
What happens first? The Eagles sign a player, or we get a Dallas Goedert resolution?
Good question. I think sign a player first.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think we'll get something today?
I mean, there is going to be more action once the new year begins. But yeah, I'm guessing. Look, I don't want to call him. You know, I already hit it once, right? You should leave it. I remember in in college, I was playing a pickup basketball game and in that game was a player who went on to be a very prominent ACC player. Okay, and I hit a 3.
Lee Melchione.
No. I went to high school with him. This was a guy at Syracuse just playing
it's Syracuse.
Playing summer pickup. And
why won't you name him? What could possibly be the reason to keep this secret?
I think it might. Well, I don't know. It might have been conflated with a few things. I could be wrong here, but I believe it was Greg Paulus.
Okay.
But I hit a 3.
But what was the reason? Because he wasn't allowed to play basketball?
I don't know.
When he was a football player?
No, this was. It's a long story. We don't need to get into it.
I'm hooked. You got to tell me why.
I don't need to. That's actually, I have a lot of people who send me messages about how to better operate on the show, and one of the things they say is just because Bo tells you have to do something, you don't have to answer.
I know, but you owe the audience now.
I don't owe.
You've teased this story, this mystery.
There's some things are better left as a mystery. But let me get to the point. I hit a 3. It was an improbable 3 that I hit.
Are you sure it wasn't Paul Gregus?
Yeah, it was an improbable 3 that I hit, and I left the pickup game thereafter.
You pulled a Costanza.
Yeah. No, I didn't leave in the mid. It was. I said I had to go. Because you keep the court if you win, right?
Yeah.
And I left. I was like, this is it for me. That's the only game I'm playing today because there was no chance it was going to get better than that one moment for me right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
If somebody asks on a super chat why you were worried about outing Greg Paulus as having played pickup basketball one time, will you answer?
No. It might not have been Greg Paulus for all I know. So.
What?
Let's just move on, please. Let's.
I think you know me well enough.
Yeah.
To know that I'm not ending this episode until we get a resolution on what the story there is. But I will give you some time to think about a way to tell that story in a less embarrassing way, I guess. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. You tell us about why you want to live so long.
Yeah, I want to live so long.
Hold on. Now go.
I want to live so long because sometimes I have shows that I leave and I'm like, I'm not happy with how the show went. And the longer I live, the more shows I have that I can make up for those types of shows. And the way that I will live longer is with Timeline, with MitoPure. Because the cells in our bodies, they are the building blocks of life. And Timeline is a supplement that works with those cells to help give you more energy, feel stronger during your workouts, and preserve health and mobility as you start to age. And as I'm experiencing, I am starting to age. So the good thing is they have a patent ingredient, which is MitoPure. It's a postbiotic nutrient that clears out dysfunctional mitochondria, which is your cell's battery pack. So I don't want this to sound like I'm in an 8th grade science class, although I enjoyed 8th grade science and 9th grade science. Shout out to Mr. Rittenhouse if he's watching. With regular use, you'll see and feel the difference in the form of improved energy levels, better workouts, faster recoveries, more endurance, and so much more. You'll have more energy to do things that you enjoy, like playing with your kids or playing pickup basketball. MitoPure recharges your cells and helps your body system work better. MitoPure is the only supplement clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. MitoPure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. That is a win. Get ready to be your best, most energized, most revitalized you right now. Timeline is giving you 10% off your order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/PHLY. That's timeline.com/PHLY.
Are you sure it wasn't geometry with Mr. Rittenhouse?
I am positive it wasn't geometry with Mr. Rittenhouse. It was physics, and I learned about velocity and acceleration. And great teacher.
About Green Chef, Zach. Okay. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, delivering pre-portioned and prepped quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients. Green Chef sends organic, fresh produce, responsibly sourced proteins, and chef-designed recipes in every box for satisfying, nourishing, and convenient meals that make it easy to stick to a clean eating routine. We are all about trying to make you live longer today, people. Here's the deal with Green Chef. If you want to create better eating habits that last, Green Chef makes it easy with dietitian-developed recipe options featuring fresh, organic produce and quality whole foods delivered to your door each week. You can stay on track even on your busiest days with salads that are ready in 5 minutes or less, ready to blend smoothies, and grab-and-go protein-packed breakfasts. Green Chef can even help keep you feeling energized and curb cravings throughout the day with a specially curated hydration bundle. Thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/EaglesFree and use code EaglesFree to get started with free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. That's greenchef.com/EaglesFree and use code EaglesFree. You want me to explain my geometry joke?
Yes.
Well, I figured they named the square after him. Hey-o! Super chat from Michael, who says...
You make Joy laugh, that's for sure.
Is the fear of disclosing more because of misattribution or something else?
Misattribution. There's a story behind it that I can't... I shouldn't even have brought it up. I was trying to make an example. I shouldn't have brought it up.
For the life of me, I cannot imagine what would be untellable about a story of pickup basketball with Greg Paulus.
Honestly, this is an Eagles show. This is the first day of the league year. We don't need to allocate time to this, Bo. Seriously, let's just keep rolling on.
It is very difficult for me to move on without getting to the bottom of this.
I want to talk more about Deering High School if we talk
you,
about anything else.
I promise you that we are not ending this show until I get more information here. We will move on for now. Okay. I want to talk about Saquon Barkley in the running back position. We're going to talk Eagles, but this show is not ending until I get some more on this.
It wasn't Greg Paulus. How about that? Let's just say that. It wasn't Greg Paulus.
You don't lie to the people.
I'm just trying to move on with the show, please.
Danilo says he's from Salvador, northeast part of the country. Love that.
Awesome.
The tentacles extend all over the place.
Big fan of Brazil.
PHLY Nation. You have some Saquon thoughts. Now, Kenny Gainwell has officially signed or plans to sign, agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of all the young players who we talked about inheriting bigger roles, Will Shipley is among them now. Do you think that is definite? You've been maybe the president of Shipley Hive.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Pacheco probably, but no.
Or do you think the Eagles will continue to add some competition here? Is Lou Nichols enough?
No, I wrote in the 25-step guide to the offseason, which you can find if you're a diehard on allphly.com, that they should turn the number 2 job over to Will Shipley. and maybe have a veteran or a draft pick as the number 3, but make Will Shipley the number 2. But I think the number 2 running back spot's going to be especially important next year. Saquon Barkley, as we talked about when the Eagles gave him the extension, had like the best case scenario was last season, that he was healthy, he was incredibly productive, he had nearly 500 touches. Saquon, take away Saquon, that position itself is a position that tends to have injuries, nicks and bruises here and there. Let's even dismiss the season-ending injuries. Just you miss a game here, you miss a game there. That happens often with running backs. The Eagles didn't have to go.
And has happened with Saquon.
And has happened with Saquon, exactly. The Eagles didn't have to go to Kenny Gainwell or Will Shipley last year, but they very well might need to next season. And so I think if they are going to have an offense that is so running back centric, then it's important that what is their plan when Saquon's not in the lineup. That is a conversation that obviously needs to be had. Now, it could very well be that they become a pass-happy team in that case. They have A.J. Brown. They have Devontae Smith. We'll see who their tight end is. They have Jahan Dotson. They have Jalen Hurts. But the Eagles say that they want to be able to run when they're going to run and pass when they're going to pass. And there might be games when Saquon's not in there and the matchup calls for a run-based offense. And in that case, you need to have confidence in that next running back. If it is Will Shipley, and I think Will Shipley is a good player. I liked him coming out of Clemson. We all remember that. I talked about him in the draft. I thought he was going to unseat Kenny Gainwell last year. Did not happen. But I thought he showed some life late in the year.
No doubt.
And so if Shipley is the number 2, that's a big role on that team next year, given the size, the importance in the offense that Saquon has.
I think will they pass more is an important part of this, but we talked about it when they signed the Saquon extension. I think counterintuitively, extending Saquon and guaranteeing that money actually makes the number 2 running back more important than it would have been otherwise, because on his previous contract, you would have thought that this year is, okay, this is the last year of Saquon's deal with the Eagles. We're going to run him into the ground. We don't need to worry about, his longevity. Now, because they're counting on him being here at least 2 more years, and, the way that they talk about each other, like maybe forever, they need to keep him healthy long term. They can't run him into the ground quite as much. And so you just look at, here's the amount of snaps the number 1 running back has played in the Nick Sirianni offenses before. 2021, Miles Sanders, 53% of the snaps. 2022, Miles Sanders, 57% of the snaps.
Good numbers.
2023, DeAndre Swift, 58% of the snaps. Last year, Saquon Barkley, 74% of the snaps. I don't think that Saquon's going to be off the field when he's healthy, but I think they need to prepare for not building the entire plane out of Saquon Barkley like they did in this year's offense. And so I don't know that means, I don't think it means they're going to commit resources there, because it's similar to linebacker. We don't want to spend this much at this position, so we're not going to spend much for, the backup at the position. But I do think getting quality play or reliability at that spot is going to be very important for them.
Do you think they're going to miss Gainwell?
Nick Sirianni's going to miss him.
That's true.
We'll see. I don't know.
If you had to guess on Jaylen Warren or Kenny Gainwell as the lead back in Pittsburgh, who are you taking? They just lost Najee Harris. He's been their lead running back. I know Jaylen Warren's shown some juice. They gave him a tender, but I haven't seen the money on Kenny Gainwell yet.
Yeah, usually that's not encouraging if you don't know the money.
But when you sign a running back day 2, it's probably a guy that you're interested in. Andy Weidel was here when the Eagles drafted Kenny Gainwell, so he's someone that they know.
I don't have a strong opinion. I think I would guess Warren, but I'm sure they will both play.
Sure.
How about you?
Yeah, I would guess Warren too. I haven't been Kenny Gainwell's biggest advocate here.
Yeah, I don't know why you hate him so much.
I don't hate him.
He's
He's
been
nice.
a very good player for them.
No, he's a very nice guy, and I'm very happy for him for his wedding. He just got married, like I said. Blissful day. What? But I think that Will Shipley is the next guy up there.
Okay. Yeah, he is. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, are they going to sign or draft someone over Will Shipley?
I don't think they're going to. They're definitely not going to sign someone over him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might sign someone to add to the competition. I wouldn't be shocked if, they drafted a running back in the 4th round again, given how good this class is. I don't think that's crazy.
Will Shipley was the number 127th overall pick last year.
Yes, of course. He was the 3rd highest. It's him, Miles Sanders, and LaShawn McCoy, basically.
Well, yeah, he's the highest drafted running back they had since Miles Sanders. That is accurate. Okay, we don't need to relitigate that because you can't relitigate facts. That is a fact. It is a verifiable fact. You shake your head. Once again,
it is not. I mean, I don't want to do this again,
Yeah.
but the word fact is doing a lot of work there. Will Shipley's here, Donald Pumphrey's here, LaShawn McCoy's all the way over here.
Yeah, that's
and look, Miles Sanders is all the way over here, and you're drawing the line like this instead of like this. It's ridiculous.
But once again, you're not entitled to your own facts. But if you look at the Eagles draft picks this year, do you think, and the draft picks got finalized yesterday, do you think they will take a running back before 127?
Maybe.
Is that an unreasonable question?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Do you want to know their draft picks, Bill?
Sure. Why don't you let the audience know their draft picks this year?
Let me pull this up here because the NFL sent this out. And the Eagles draft picks next year are, and the Eagles did not get a compensatory pick, but they will, of course. They will get that next season.
Number 32.
I know that. Here you go. Edit. The Eagles have the number 32 overall pick, like we said. And so I'm looking this up here.
Number 64.
I do know that. Yes. Hold on here. I got it. I'm sorry. I had to find something in my computer. Okay. The Eagles have the number 32 overall pick, number 64 overall pick, the number 96 overall pick, number 134 overall pick. They have the number 161 overall pick, the number 165 overall pick, the number 168 overall pick, and this does not count yet the pick that they got from Cleveland in the NFL's official thing, but that would be the number 164 overall pick, Cleveland from Detroit.
Yeah, those 4 picks in like an 8-pick span in the 5th round.
That's going to be a fun show we do.
Oh, can't wait for that. Day 3. Absolutely dynamic. Day 1's going to be interesting, huh? We'll be here for a very long time, and then maybe they'll trade out right at the end.
Exactly.
That'll be fun.
Then we have to hustle over to NovaCare. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Do you think but would they do I guess they would still do a press conference even if they trade out, right?
Yes, they did it with Dallas Goedert. Now, that was a different time. Maybe they don't. But
yeah, they've been seeming to try to get away with not doing press conferences, but
they did do that in back in 2018.
Okay. What else are you expecting anything else today?
So I heard what Adam Schefter said this morning on 97.5 The Fanatic, where he thinks the Eagles are going to continue to cut salary. And I do think that is going to be a theme this offseason. Now, I think he might have been suggesting that Mekhi Becton's not coming back. I don't expect Mekhi Becton to come back. And so that is a player that they're not paying per se. But I think Mekhi Becton is going to get a good contract somewhere else. I think that trade yesterday kind of signaled that. One thing we talked about, I don't think we talked about this on air. We talked about it off air. I am curious to see if Tyler Steen is kind of viewed as a potential swing tackle for them.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that because if they think that Kenyon Green, and I looked up, it's Kenyon, not Kenyon, that Kenyon Green is a starting guard for them, then maybe Steen fills that swing tackle role that Fred Johnson has filled, and they add someone as like an interior swing guy, but that they kind of open that spot up for Green to be the starter.
Do you think they're viewing Green as the presumptive red guard?
I haven't heard enough yet on that, but I would pencil him in. Would you pencil him in?
Really?
Yes. Would you?
I think I would still take the field.
Interesting. Okay.
Between Green, Steen, that's nice. and the field.
Keegan?
I think I would still take the field.
How about this? If the field does not include a draft pick, if it's any player who played in the NFL last season.
Well, that's a totally different question.
Yes.
If it was that, then I think I might still go Steen. But I think Green is it's possible. I don't know. I am a little bit swayed by none of the messaging coming from the Eagles on this CJ Gardner-Johnson trade has anything to do with Kenyon Green.
True.
Like
true.
they're
Yes.
not like, oh, we got this guy who could be our next Mekhi Becton.
That is true.
They're not saying that.
Not yet. No, that is true.
And like the Texans are picking up half the money. They're paying him $1.5 million. I don't think that their hopes are super high for him.
Interesting. And he's not, Fran had, I thought Fran's scouting report was awesome yesterday, but he's not, if you look at the athletic testing at the combine, he's not like an athletic marvel. He's not one of these guys who tested out of the gym. He's really strong. He moves well, but he's not he's not like a workout warrior.
No, his strength is his strength.
Exactly.
Per se, right? Which tracks with the way that they used Mekhi Becton last year, right? If he could be a mauler in the run game, that would be nice. But I'm not so sure.
Yeah. I mean, but I do think if they're acquiring him, there is interest from Jeff Stoutland.
No doubt.
And that doesn't mean he's the starter, but I also think that Tyler Steen has had multiple touch points here to become the starter, and that hasn't happened. I don't buy into the framing that Tyler Steen's injury last year is why Becton got the job. I thought you were ahead of that overall. It was like a convenient reason for the Eagles. Once the Eagles moved Becton over, I think that signaled that they weren't confident in Steen.
No doubt.
And that they were kind of opening that up for Becton to win.
We have a conspiracy theory here as to why you won't mention the Greg Paul situation from Tomalex in a super chat. He says, Zach was probably tripping balls.
What does that mean?
It means you're tripping on drugs.
Oh, no. I assure you that was not the case. I finally made Joya laugh. I think she's laughing at me, though, for not tripping on drugs.
Laughing with you.
Fine. You know what? I want the show to end at some point, so I guess I'll just tell the story here. Okay. Greg Paulus is from Syracuse, New York. Okay. He was a student at Christian Brothers Academy who committed to Duke pretty early on, right? And so I was playing basketball, and there were like locals playing basketball there. And this was before he was at Duke. And so someone said, do you know who that is? That's Greg Paulus. But I didn't, at the time, I didn't know. I don't know if it was Greg Paulus or not. So I don't want to identify Greg Paulus. And then this gets back. He's the coach at Niagara right now. And then Greg Paulus is like, I was not playing at Flanagan Gymnasium that summer. So that's why I was cryptic about it. Hey, I told you it's not something I wanted to get into.
All you had to say in the beginning was I was playing pickup basketball in a game with Greg Paulus, and we could have just moved on. And now all of a sudden, as if that word would have gotten back to him, and he would have said, "Hey, wait a second, what are you talking about? When and where? There's no chance that was me."
Okay, yeah.
Like, what?
Bo, you say this as
What are you worried about us getting sued?
As if you say this as if you would ever let me move on from anything. Okay.
Yeah, but I think you need this. The scouting report here is, if you have any hesitancy about telling something, yeah, I'm going to pick at that. If you just go through it, I'll move on.
I think the scouting report here is I'm just not going to volunteer anything. I thought I made a nice comment earlier about the high school that that he went that Cooper Flagg went to, or I'm sorry, that Nick Cannon Medley went to, and your response was to make me sound creepy for knowing
I
a high
never
school.
said creepy. I said
we have to rewind the tape.
I said weird and borderline deranged, I think, were the words there. Or disturbing, I think.
Okay.
Creepy, never creepy.
Okay. So
I mean, that Greg Paulus story is amazing.
It's not even amazing. It's a bad story. It's
amazing that you were worried about that.
I just wanted to move on from the conversation. I did not want to put someone in a place that they weren't. That's all it was. That's all it was. It was one of those things where I said it and I shouldn't have said it.
Thank you to all the Niagara basketball fans for watching on Fast. We will finish the rest of this episode on allphly.com. You can check it out there. That is bewildering. It informs every other thing you're afraid to share. If that's the level of thing that you're afraid to share, there's so much out there that must mean nothing that you're afraid to share.
Can I just ask you a question?
Of course.
Honestly, if you're doing a show with someone and someone's like, I don't want to get into it, why don't you just say you don't want to get into it? There was actually a show recently where I think it was you and Jamie, and you didn't want to name where you went to high school. Is that right? Or something with
I don't think so.
Okay. I'd have to rewind.
It's possible something, but I don't think that's what it was.
And Jamie just moved on. He didn't want to halt the show. He just moved on. And I respected that. It's like, all right, instead of clearly trying to make someone feel uncomfortable, you just move on. There's going to be a Reddit forum about this. By the way, people on Reddit will know exactly what I'm talking about. There's going to be a Reddit forum about this interaction.
I think you're ascribing... I'm not here to try to make you uncomfortable. I'm trying to get to the bottom of stuff.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
When you throw out a crumb, I'm hungry. I want to eat. I want the audience to eat. I am a proxy for the audience. They want, when you throw out these things, they want to know them too.
I don't know if you can speak for the audience. Sometimes the audience, I think, has enough of this and they find it uncomfortable as well.
Okay, well, they can buy pizza somewhere else.
I hope they don't. I want them to come to our pizza shop every day, and all our emergency pizza shops as well.
Dinkelberg with the super chat says, Zach, tell us about a time you farted in a public setting and you wish you hadn't. I would never ask you that. You don't have to answer that. Okay. Super chat from Rob, who says, role play the quote unquote great call between Howie and CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Do you want to be CJ?
Not really.
Okay.
I'll be Howie.
I think you're better off as CJ here.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Hey, Chauncey. I want to let you know that we're trading you to Houston.
Who's it? I'm sorry, who's this?
This is Howie Roseman, the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Never heard of you.
Well, Chauncey, I just want to let you know that we are trading you to the Houston Texans. I want you to understand this has nothing to do with what we think. What the hell? This has nothing to do with what we think of you as a player.
What the hell?
As a person. We value you, but we're We're in a situation financially where we can't pay everyone. What is going on? And I think Houston is going to be a better spot for you financially.
Wait a second. You're the guy who got hit by the beer, right?
I am.
You must still be concussed.
I'm the person who acquired you twice. That is correct.
Man, this is fucked up. Oh.
Who's working blue now? Yes.
Luckily, it's after the 60 minutes on fast, so that's okay. And scene.
Okay.
Not our best. Super chat from RL, who says, Eagles fan from Philly, now living in Portland, Maine. Go Birds, go Bears, go Rams. You forgot go Moose. And then I think we have another super chat.
What's your favorite? Oh, by the way, I got a message yesterday from someone who lives in Maine who appreciated that I stuck up for Maine, talking about the Black Bears.
I got a message from someone who says they lived in Maine their entire life and they've never seen or heard about bears ever.
They never heard the nickname for the state's flagship university.
No, it's not. But you. It's just like, do you think that everybody in Philadelphia loves a Nittany lion?
No, but I think if you said to someone from Philadelphia about a Nittany lion, they would know what you're referring to.
Yeah, but you never said they would know what you're referring to. You said they love black bears in Maine.
Okay. What's the next super chat?
It's just a freebie from K. Fergie. K. Fergie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, K. Fergie. K. Fergie.
And what do we have at the top here?
That's from Claire, who says she's wearing a blouse that has French writing and the Eiffel Tower on it. Will Bo do the entire pod in a French accent, please? I'm afraid it's too late. Pardon.
I've never been to Paris, but I recently watched the documentary on the Olympic basketball from last year. Real cool scenes in Paris in there. It's like that Olympics looked pretty awesome.
Sure.
And a good doc.
John, giving a shout out to Portland, Maine, mentions that there's a contestant in the upcoming season of Top Chef with a restaurant in Portland. Saw the list of contestants. We got nobody from Philly on this season. What the hell?
What's your favorite restaurant in Portland, Maine?
Outrageous. Oh, Portland, Maine's a great food city. There's a ton of great restaurants.
Any you want to stick out in particular? Or is it something you don't want to share?
I don't want to share because frankly, I'm not sure if Greg Paulus was actually there or not.
Okay. How can we possibly finish the show without you sharing that information? Yes. And you should also talk about where you worked before the Athletic too, while we're at it, right?
I could talk about that.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's a place called Taylor.
Taylor made for you.
Aha. I will answer your questions.
We're good. We're good.
That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We are here waiting for news so we can emergency pod. We need those views. Let's go. Howie, do something. But I don't know. We'll be here. And if there's nothing that happens between now and tomorrow, we'll be here at 2 o'clock. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Julia. What else do you need to know? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you later, if not tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.